说小米是高通的亲儿子，原来华为才是。
Everyone says Xiaomi is Qualcomm's favorite, but it turns out Huawei is. It's 2025, and Huawei Nova 14i is still using the Snapdragon 680, selling for 2,000 yuan. Can you handle this performance monster from another era? Many people might not even know what level the Snapdragon 680 is at. To put it simply, it's industrial junk. It's not even considered an entry-level chip. For the same 2,000 yuan, you could buy a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 or Dimensity 9300 Plus, or even the Snapdragon 8 Ultra. But you can still buy the Huawei Nova 14i with the Snapdragon 680.
In October this year, Huawei released the Nova 14i, priced around 2,000 yuan. Because it uses the Snapdragon 680, the phone was quickly mocked online, compared to other models using the same chip from Xiaomi, Redmi, and Oppo, which only cost 800 to 1,200 yuan. Huawei is treating Chinese consumers like easy targets.
华为与高通，特别是与那个骁龙680。
Between Huawei and Qualcomm, especially with the Snapdragon 680 chip, it's like a legendary love story. From 2022 to 2026, 4 whole years. While other brands are fighting over this chip, Huawei uses the Nova 14i to show the world what it means to simply change the shell and stay loyal to tradition. Back then, the Nova 11 SE was said to be a strategic move to clear out inventory to get access to the Snapdragon 8 series. But now, Qualcomm's flagship chips are evolving so fast they're unrecognizable. And yet, the Snapdragon 680 is still going strong in Huawei's Nova 14i. It's like an archaeological chip miracle. I suspect Qualcomm's warehouse has a wormhole that lets them keep supplying these legendary chips from 2019. Experience this historical wait, paying 2,000 yuan for a 2021-like smooth experience. While other brands focus on performance and AI, Huawei offers a 7,000 mAh battery, ensuring lasting safety and endurance.
The Snapdragon 680 is Qualcomm's typical toothpaste chip from 2021. It takes the old A73 architecture on 14 nanometers and forces it to 6 nanometers. The CPU performance barely improves, but power consumption and heat dissipation are significantly better. However, the GPU has been downgraded. It doesn't support 5G, and it's only suitable for light daily use. For users who want high performance, especially in graphics and gaming, it's far behind flagship chips and even lags behind the Snapdragon 660 from 7 years ago. Some users shared their real experience with Huawei's low-end phones. Other phones get slower with time, but with Huawei, you start out slow. It saves you a few years of frustration.
What exactly is the Nova 14 trying to do? Sold 3 units, and 2 customers want refunds. Why didn't I tell them? The signal doesn't work, the version doesn't fit, WeChat doesn't notify, the files won't open, messages aren't supported, Douyin doesn't have a mall. I kindly advised them not to buy, but they insisted on getting it. They just had to buy it, no refunds.
华为这家公司最强的其实是它的营销能力。
Huawei's real strength lies in its marketing ability. No other company in China can compare. Xiaomi can barely keep up, but other companies aren't even close. Huawei is one of the few companies in China that can sell products at such high premiums like the Snapdragon 680, which they can sell for over 5,000 yuan. Other phone companies can't do that. Huawei's marketing ability is truly a model for others to learn from.
Starting with the Nova 9 SE in March 2022, which used the Snapdragon 680, and continuing with the Enjoy 60X in April and the Nova 14i in October this year, Huawei has used the Snapdragon 680 in several generations of models for over 4 years. Digital reviewers directly criticized Huawei's decision to sell the Snapdragon 680 at 2,000 yuan. Reviewer Lu Dachi said, "It's electronic trash, but still leading in popularity. Every frame slides smoothly with performance. A chip of this level shouldn't even stand out in budget phones." But with Huawei's branding, the Snapdragon 680's value shot up to 2,199 yuan.
Huawei can't stop insulting you. They give you a Snapdragon 680 and dare to sell it for 2,000 yuan. Look at which brand dares to sell like this. This performance can barely run an iPhone 6s. opening 2 apps, and the CPU starts smoking. If you're selling this offline, aren't you just trying to scam the older generation? People who know phones can get a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for 2,000 yen. And for those defending it, would you dare switch your main phone to a Nova 11?
A blogger went to a Huawei store to buy a phone, and the salesperson didn't speak a word of truth. The blogger said, "Is Huawei just relying on scams to sell phones now? Not a single truthful word in the conversation. It's really heartless." Which one would you like?
I don't know much about phones, but I want to show it to my mom. My budget is around 2,500 yen, and I'm looking for something with a good price to performance ratio, preferably over 108,000 yen.
How about this one, the Nova 11, which just had a price drop?
Mainly, my mom wants to use it for a couple more years.
With this kind of phone, your mom can use it for 5 to 6 years easily. It has a metal frame and even the back is metal, all metal. But the official website states that the Nova 11's back is made of plastic, with a matte finish. The salesperson continued to recommend this phone, saying it has great performance. And when asked if it was a 5G phone, the salesperson said, "Due to policy reasons, I can't say if it's 5G, but Huawei is a 5G company. Huawei developed 5G, and our phones are never made poorly." They even compared the blogger's iPhone 12 mini, which only had 4 GB of RAM, to the Nova 11 with its 8 GB of RAM, saying it's way better than Oppo and Vivo, which make disposable phones. Xiaomi chips are from others. They're nothing compared to Huawei's domestically developed chips. No wonder netizens ask, when your elders say they bought a phone from a physical store, which brand makes you feel the safest? The top voted comment says, as long as they don't go to Huawei, I'd feel safe with any brand. Huawei's phones, which use the Snapdragon 680, are marketed as phones for young people, but young people care about high performance and have a good understanding of phone specs since they're more in touch with digital information. Meanwhile, middle-aged and elderly people are less concerned with phone specs and are more influenced by price and brand marketing. Huawei's marketing strategy capitalizes on this, using nationalism, like supporting domestic products and breaking the US blockade to make users willingly become suckers. Netizens joke that buying Huawei is not about buying a phone, it's buying a patriotic certificate, and 1,500 yuan out of that 2,000 is the patriot tax. This high-price, low-specs marketing strategy is no accident. It was carefully planned by Huawei in the face of sanctions. In 2019, the US placed Huawei on the Entity List, cutting off supplies of advanced chips and technologies, aiming to curb the CCP's espionage activities, military-civil fusion strategy, and global surveillance ambitions. But 6 years later, Huawei didn't collapse. Instead, through covert methods, they've shifted the entire cost of the sanctions onto ordinary Chinese customers, while maintaining high profits and continuing to fund the CCP. This is the true picture of Huawei as the CCP's great digital firewall. The sanctions that led to sky-high manufacturing costs, low yields, and production bottlenecks have been cleverly turned into a patriot tax. After the sanctions, the high-end Mate and Pure series saw prices hiked by 1,000 to 2,000 yuan, and consumers happily paid for breaking the blockade. For the mid and low-end models, Huawei took the old Snapdragon 680 and 778G chips, which were outdated 4G stock, rebranded them with features like 100-watt supercharging, 7,000 mAh batteries, and 100-megapixel main cameras, selling them for 1,500 to 2,500 yuan, with profit margins even higher than before the sanctions. The result is that elderly people, students, and users in 3rd and 4th-tier cities became the easiest victims of this high-price, low-spec strategy. They don't understand 7nm and EUV, yet they know that buying Huawei is supporting the country, and Huawei is the brand that guarantees national security.
不得不说，华为手机如今是水涨。
I have to say, Huawei phones are getting more and more expensive every day. Of course, you could argue that Huawei phones are worth the price. Everyone has their own opinions and views on this.
In today's Chinese smartphone market, no matter how much other brands fight over the budget segment and load up on features, at least they don't make you pay the highest price under the banner of patriotism, only to get the worst experience and lock yourself into a digital prison. Nowadays, Huawei's actions live up to the netizens' criticism. Its conscience was sanctioned. Even if their chips are sanctioned and their technology is blocked, they could still grit their teeth and fight to develop things themselves. But Huawei, taking advantage of the sanctions, has lost its conscience and shamelessly sells you the worst chips, the highest prices, and the most fake advertising, all wrapped up in patriotism to make you grateful. What's even more ironic is that Huawei clings to the private enterprise label. Huawei claims to be a private enterprise, with founder Ren Zhengfei stating that it has 100% employee ownership and no government background. But the truth has been exposed by multiple investigations. Ren Zhengfei holds only about 1% of the shares, with the remaining 99% controlled by the Huawei Investment and Holding Company Union Committee. In China, unions are not independent organizations. They're directly led by the CCP as a mouthpiece and control tool. The union ownership model is a classic CCP tactic to secretly control major businesses without needing direct state ownership, making Huawei fully comply with CCP directives, including all the requirements of the National Intelligence Law for businesses to cooperate with intelligence work. According to international media, Ren Zhengfei was once a People's Liberation Army engineer officer. After retiring, he founded Huawei, with early orders coming mostly from the military. Former chairman Sun Yafang is also said to have ties to the Ministry of State Security, working in China's intelligence system for years before joining Huawei to handle business with governments and militaries worldwide. Many former employees and overseas whistleblowers point out that Huawei is essentially a military-industrial complex combining business, espionage, and intelligence theft. This trick is the same as other Chinese state-owned enterprises, like PetroChina and Sinopec, which directly monopolize resources, sell oil at high prices to Chinese consumers, but dump it at lower prices overseas. When international oil prices plummeted, China's domestic gasoline prices stayed at rock-bottom levels, but when oil prices rise, China's prices always lead the world. In 2022 to 2023, when international oil prices dropped below $70 per barrel, China's 92-octane gasoline remained at 8 to 9 yuan per liter, equivalent to over $5 per gallon, much higher than the U.S. average of $3.50. The high-speed train ticket prices from China railway construction are also ridiculously high, yet they use state subsidies to burn money on the Belt and Road Initiative. For example, the second-class ticket on the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed rail cost 553 yuan, about $78, with a fare more than twice the price of Japan's Shinkansen and France's TGV. During the Chinese New Year, it's impossible to get a ticket, and many people have to buy overpriced tickets from scalpers. Huawei has mastered this model, taking advantage of domestic consumers with high prices and dumping products overseas with low prices to seize market share. And once they get a foothold, they export surveillance technology. In recent years, according to Reuters, Huawei has been aggressively promoting low-priced telecom equipment in Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East, with 5G base station prices 20 to 40% lower than Ericsson and Nokia, forcing several European countries to follow suit and lower their prices. What's even worse is on the mobile side. In 2025, Huawei's Pura 70, Mate X6, and other series are being sold in Pakistan and Egypt at prices 30% lower than in China. They're doing this to gain market share and local government favor.
Mate
X6, you really make me hate you to the extreme. Every day, you make us, the people of China, pay more and more to buy it. Yet in places far from the mainland, you let foreigners buy it with discounts. The domestic Mate X6 with 12 gigabytes plus 512 gigabytes was released at 13,999 yuan. Now, even through channels, it's still around 13,500 yuan with hardly any discounts. But in the Middle East, it was released for 7,199 Emirati dirham, which is about 14,272 yuan. After conversion, it's priced at a 23% discount with a selling price of 11,000 yuan. And they even get an extra year of screen breakage insurance. In short, I can support you, but you can't make me overpay like this.
After the sanctions, Huawei completely lost TSMC and had to rely on SMIC's cut-down 7-nanometer chip. The yield rate of this chip is so poor that industry insiders reveal it costs 40 to 50% more per chip than the same level at TSMC. The high-end Mate 60, Pura 70, and Mate 70 series passed all these extra costs onto Chinese consumers. The prices started from 6,000 to 7,000 yuan, far higher than pre-sanction levels, with consumers paying for patriotism and becoming the victims of Huawei's failed self-research. Huawei already has the Kirin 9000S, 9010, and 9020 chips, which could easily be used in mid-range models like the Nova and Enjoy series, but they refuse to do so. Instead, they force older chips like the Snapdragon 680 and 778G onto ordinary Chinese consumers at high prices. This isn't a shortage of production capacity, it's a well-calculated class price gap. The rich spend 7,000 to 15,000 yuan buying leading-edge status and helping Huawei recover. The less fortunate spend 1,500 to 2,500 yuan buying patriotism while clearing Huawei stock. What's even more ridiculous is that they disguise their scamming with high-end marketing. Every time they release something, Ren Zhengfei and Yu Chengdong talk about Harmony OS, Tianlong satellite communication, Beidou satellite messages, and X-Mage imaging, hyping these buzzwords up to the sky. But when it comes to processor models, process nodes, or actual benchmark scores, they remain silent. Even if the Mate 70 series uses the Kirin 9020, its performance and efficiency still lag behind Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 and Apple's A18 Pro by over 2 years. The Snapdragon 680 models in the mid and low-end range rely heavily on gimmicks to distract consumers. But when countless buyers take them home, they realize this isn't a phone, it's electronic trash. Where is all this dirty money from Huawei really going? Did it all go into chip research? Media outlets have revealed that Huawei is deeply involved in China's surveillance empire. With tens of millions of cameras in the national Skynet and Sharp Eyes programs, face recognition, gait recognition, and voice recognition algorithms, Huawei handles it all. For the Safe City projects in Xinjiang and the Joint Action Initiative, Huawei directly provided the one-button alarm system, and internal documents have even exposed that the Uyghur alarm system can automatically trigger an alarm by identifying ethnicity. In dozens of countries overseas, Huawei has lowballed its bids for smart city and safe city projects, and after winning, they conveniently exported China's surveillance model. Countries like Uganda, Zambia, Kenya, Serbia, Myanmar, and Pakistan are among the countries that have adopted it. The purpose of the U.S. sanctions was originally to curb the CCP's expansionist ambitions in technology, to prevent it from using information technology to monitor and control the world. However, this should have targeted systemic pressure, but under Huawei's patriotic marketing, the entire nation foots the bill. The stricter the sanctions, the more patriotic sentiment rises, easily igniting nationalistic emotions. So what was originally an external measure becomes the new fuel for driving internal consumption frenzy. Now, ordinary Chinese people are the real victims.